All right. Hello. Good afternoon and good evening and good morning somewhere out there in the world. This is E.V.E. Happy Wednesday. We are on a lunch and learn here on Real Talk with E.V.E. And of course, I'm in a different environment at this moment. I almost didn't have a show, but I said, no, we got to bring it on. As they say, the show must go on. And today is our lunch and learn Wednesdays. So I'm hoping everyone gets to tune in. Um, and chime in the chat room. We're going to be looking at the chat and hopefully able to answer any questions. But let's be ready to take some notes because we really need to learn all about safety. But most of all, we need to learn on what do we do or should we do in case of an emergency. How prepared are we? That's the thing. Are you truly prepared for an emergency? I have to, I'm sure, take my notes here too, because I know I'm not as prepared as I should be. So my wonderful guest, and I want to thank him for coming on. It's some of you may know who he is. He's the actually executive safety facilitator, national consultant, OSHA outreach trainer. So I'm going to bring him up and introduce him. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Ward. How are you?
I am doing fine. How about yourself?
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for making some time out of your busy schedule to come and teach us something on our Lunch and Learn Wednesday here on Real Talk with E.V.E. And I was just introducing you. You are an executive safety facilitator, national consultant, OSHA outreach trainer. And I've learned a lot from you from many years ago, being your outreach coordinator in the community, talking about safety. And, pandemic, I almost want to say it's over, but it's not over,
Not
but
over.
it's over in my world at least, right? I don't have to go into a restaurant with the mask on. I don't have to go to a store with the mask on. I don't have to stand in line 6 feet between the next person. That's the part I'm saying that it's over, right? But there's some things that many of us may not have learned is how prepared are we for an emergency, right?
Very true.
And media can play the fear factor on people, but this type of safety that you've been training nationwide, not many people, um, we may think we're prepared, right? But how prepared are we? And we're going to learn from you today, David. I call you Dave. Is that all right?
Call me. Yes, that's fine.
I just known you as Dave for so long. David Ward Sr. And he's here to teach us some stuff. We are live, and hello to our Facebookers, our YouTubers, and our LinkedIn family as well. Let's take some notes and listen to what Dave has to teach us today about how prepared are we, or what do we need to do to really be prepared in case of an emergency. So, how prepared can a person be prepared? David, tell us about that.
Well, let's talk. Let's first talk about three areas. Let's talk about the home. Let's talk about businesses, and then we could talk about a little bit about
Okay.
travel.
Wait, before we go into that, tell us a little bit about you. I mean, I may know you, but our audience may not know who David Ward is, other than you're out here training folks
Okay.
to prepare for safety.
6 years United States Air Force Security Police. 23 years with the Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Prisons. I was their national safety examiner. Went through every federal prison, some state prisons, and some privatized prisons. Then I became a federal investigator for OSHA. Then I retired. Then I opened up my own safety consulting business, Safety by Design Consulting Services, in which you participated in. And then I was hired to be a safety consultant, senior safety consultant for Century Insurance. I was trying to get my daughter through school, so have to do what you got to do to make sure your kids are taken care of.
Wow. You've done a lot, and I want to say thank you for your service. Thank you for being there and being part of a solution. And I'm all about solutions. And that's what Real Talk with EVE show is about real talk with real people about real issues, right? And
Absolutely.
lack of being prepared is a big issue.
Yes, it is. Especially when we talk about the home. I mean, a lot of people don't think about it, but what do you do? What do you do in case of an emergency? And if you have children, who are they going to go in contact? Have you developed a plan with your neighbors? You
Right.
know, and
Right.
then, when you look at emergency planning, especially, how about your smoke detectors at home? Have they been properly tested? I
Mm,
just, yeah, it's a big issue. I learned something that these 20-year
mm,
smoke detectors, combination smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, actually, after 5 years, the carbon monoxide detector does not work. So when you're buying that combination, and I was told that by a fire chief. I had him come to my house, and I said, well, I just put all these in because my alarms were going off. And then they turned around and said, hey, listen, just so you know. And I was even unaware of that fact. But when you have, especially nowadays with, homes and fires, are we properly protected? Do you have fire extinguishers at home?
mm,
Do you have a fire
mm.
extinguisher in your basement near your furnace? As you go down, you don't want to put it next to your furnace because if something happens, how are you going to get to it? Same thing in your kitchen. How about the grease fires? What do I do
Mm.
with the grease fire? And then on the other hand, it's emergency planning. What happens? What happens if we do have a fire? How do my kids get out of the house? Do they know how to get out of the house?
Mm.
Because when your house is full of smoke, you can't see the locks. How are they, if you're on the second floor story, how do the kids get out of their bedroom? You
Mm.
can invest in a $59 ladder that goes outside. You can have these turns to where, you do your fire drills at home. I know it sounds ridiculous, but if you've never ever pulled somebody out of a house near their exit because they didn't get out, it tears your heart apart.
And that's something that we don't think about until it happens. And that's a little
Exactly.
too late. It's a little too late. We need
Right.
to start learning to be more proactive than reactive, right?
Exactly. Oh, yes.
It's just a sad thing to talk about, but reality's got to kick in.
Yes. Do you have an
Reality.
emergency kit? How many of us have emergency kits?
What is an emergency kit? What does it consist of? How do we know we have the right emergency kit? Since you do
Well,
that.
you have to go around your house, first of all, and make sure you account for all the hazards that are in your house. But you want gloves, you want a face mask, you want some shields, you definitely want some bandages, you want some clean towels. If you go to uh, .gov, you can get a whole list for home, travel, and even in business. So that's what I would recommend, that you get that list, you look at it, you want to turn around, you want to plan for your escapes, you want in these
Right.
kits, you want to have markers, you want to have ice, you want to have little baggies in case something does happen. How many of us are trained in CPR?
That's another thing. Do we even
Yes.
know where to go for CPR training? And I want to thank you for years ago to teach my daughter, she was in high school or middle school, to wanting to take that class because it could be a teenager in a situation where they're seeing someone choke, right? So, wow.
We touch 1,000 people's lives every day. We go to the bank, we go to the store, we're at our schools, we're at activities. We're dealing with a lot of people. What are you going to do if somebody stops breathing? How are you going to react? Now, don't get me wrong. Just because you're trained doesn't actually mean you're going to be able to respond. And that's why you want to train as many people as you can, because it's a fright. If you've never done it, you're pressing on somebody, you hear the cartilage, you hear the ribs break and things of that nature. It's something that you really need to be prepared to do. And then on the other hand, you may need to be prepared to do it for an extended period of time. Now you could do just compressions only. You don't have to breathe. It's all about how well you do those compressions. But if you don't practice, what's going to happen when the real thing happens? It's just like a fire drill. If you
Mm.
don't practice your fire drills at home and you have a fire, how many people are going to be able to get out in time?
So
How many
you're
kids have to be killed in a fire situation before we take it seriously?
exactly. And as family, especially if we have kids in the household, even ourselves, we do these drills in the schools, but we don't ever think of doing them at home.
True.
Back in the day, I saw that take place at Brady Bunch. It was one of
Yes.
the episodes that they had in Brady Bunch that they all did a fire drill and planned it and timed it to see how long it would take to get whatever you need to get and walk out the door, or don't worry about getting anything, just run out,
Yes.
or crawl. How long did it take? What if the fire was upstairs? What do you do? How do you get out? Do you have that special staircase that you just roll out the window? We don't even think about those things, Dave.
No, not at all. Not at all. And it's a scary situation because, we have family members who can't move. We have elderly parents. We have kids that may be handicapped. How are you going to get them out? Have you made plans? Have you really figured it out? I mean, their life matters. And if it matters, then we have to take the time to practice. And I preach that all the time. It's, you got to, you can have all the written plans you want, but if you never, ever practice on these emergency plans, when the time comes, how are you actually going to perform?
That's it. I think this year we really need to work to be more proactive and not wait until something happens. There's three different types of people. One that wonders what happens, the other that watches what happens, the other one that makes it happen. Which one are all of you that's watching here today? Which one? I hope you're not the one that waits for something to happen, because by then it's a little too late. And we have an expert here. He is a trainer that goes out and teaches this safety in case of an emergency. So first of all, let me ask you real quick. In the houses, not all of us have those carbon monoxide detectors that you mentioned earlier. How do we know when we have them that they're working?
Well, you have to test them. They got a little tester on the piece of equipment. And you also have to make sure that you change the batteries. You also have to make sure that once they expire by the manufacturer's date, you pick up a new one. So those are a lot of things you got to know and learn. But, carbon monoxide can kill you and you'll never know it.
That's that silent killer, they say, right?
It's kind of like your blood pressure.
Right. Just like Angel Lopez said, it's watching, plan your escape. How many of us have actually planned our escape? And I'm not talking about escaping from the world or escaping from somebody. Okay. We're talking plan your escape in case of an emergency. And David here, he is a true expert. How long you been doing this, Dave?
Almost over 40 years. Over
Wow.
40 years.
I thought you were 40.
Thank you very much.
Are you a baby?
I'll buy that. I'll take that. But no, it is truly, truly important. Like you said, you got to be proactive and not reactive. So you got to take the time to build that kit. You can go to, get online. There's a lot of companies that sell kits that are already pre-made. Keep one in your bedroom, keep one near the door. So when you get out, you have one in case somebody's burned, somebody's, hurt in one way or another. You're able to treat that person until emergency help arrives. With the trains in our local areas nowadays, I mean, it could be 10, 15, 20 minutes before an ambulance is able to get to your place. And that's that alone. And also teach your kids those numbers. And a lot of people don't realize this, but if I'm on a cell phone and I'm dialing 911 and I'm on the border, I may be picking up an address or a circuit over there in Illinois, in Indiana. So you have to be very precise that you're in Indiana, give them the correct street address. Otherwise, they may be in Illinois. So those are things that people don't think about, but you have to really, really make sure your kids understand that. Take the time to say, hey, if this happens, this is what you need to do.
Yeah. And we really need to work at it, folks. For those of you that are watching that have families, that have kids, plan as Angel Lopez he's a coach Angel Lopez. And of course, is what David said, you have to plan your escape, do the fire drill, just as you do your kids do, as you did when you were a child in school. Why don't we do that at home? Dave, is there a reason? Many excuses, but why shouldn't we do it at home? I mean, we need
Well, there's no reason why you shouldn't do it, but people don't do it because of time. It looks funny. Here I'm running out of the house with my kids. I'm going to a tree, or I'm running to my neighbors, or, and you don't want to just do it during the day. You want to do it at night. You want to press your smoke alarms. Let that alarm go off so your kids understand. If they hear that sound, they need to get out of the house immediately. They don't want to go and look for their dog. They don't want to go and grab their best toy. They want to get out of the house as soon as they can.
Mm. And I think that should be a community thing. I think, what I just thought of, Dave, that maybe people in their block talk to their neighbors about having a drill day.
Yes.
And let's say, do our neighbors know what to do in case I have an emergency? If my house is on fire, the fire is going out the window, reaching out to theirs. How should they react? Do they even know what to do? How long does it take for my neighbor to open the door?
We have block parties.
Hello.
So why don't we make it an educational block? Yeah, why don't we make it an educational block party?
That's a good idea. Let's start that. I think that's a really good idea, honestly, to do that. I mean, just like you said, we have block parties. Why can't we have drill parties, safety parties, and
how many
have
of us,
a drill?
Mm-hmm. And how many of us really know our neighbors?
Mm-hmm.
How many of us really know what time our neighbors are around and our kids? Mm-hmm. Who's watching our children? Who's watching our homes?
Mm-hmm.
I
think that's a good way of meeting your neighbors.
Yes. Be a great way.
So true.
So let's talk a little bit about business, because I don't want to
say, what are the things and what are the areas are you also a trainer? Go ahead.
Well, when we talk about business, in the EAPs, emergency action plans for business, how many drills are you performing? Are you just performing fire drills one time a year, once during the day shift? How about your evening and your morning watch shift? What are those people? Mm-hmm. How do they feel when you're not running drills? It's important. It's important to run all type of drills based on the type of hazards that you have. You need to do medical emergency drills. How is the ambulance going to get to your facility? What doors do they go through? Who's going to be the point of contact? If you have fences that are locked, who's got the keys to open up the fences? Because in a medical emergency, every second counts. Every second counts. Then you look at businesses and you say, well, what other businesses are around me? What kind of hazards could those businesses have that could affect our employees? Do you even talk to the other businesses? It's just kind of like what we were saying about the home. Are we communicating amongst each other? Do I know what hazards you have? Do I know who your safety point of contact is?
Right.
And it's really important that you run these drills. How about workplace violence? It's not going to happen here, but yet we leave all of our doors open. All the exit doors are open. Somebody gets fired from a business down the road and they come to your facility. They got access. They have a weapon. What are you going to do?
Just like it happened not too long ago, right? I think it was in California where the guy was mad at a job and he went and just gunned down people in different locations.
Yeah, it's amazing how we allow that access, and security. How are we really protecting our employees? And then when we're talking about emergency action plans again, how many of us have read the plans? We have all these plans, but who's read them? Or are they sitting neatly in a binder up on top of a shelf covered with dust and nobody knows? And then when something happens, again, how are we going to react in business? Do if an emergency came, say we have a tornado and it wipes out your building, do you have a way of taking your business to another location? Do you have a secondary location to where your business could run? Or are you just going to go down and lose a ton of business?
Yeah.
Things to think about, How about right now? It's wintertime. Your employees, we have winter storms. Are you going to allow your employees to travel when the roads are icy? You got hailstorms, sleet. How about having your employees come into work, taking that chance?
Yeah. Wow.
Who's making those decisions? And how important is it? Right? Yeah. I mean, those are things that, again, we don't think about until the day comes. And when the day comes, it might be too late.
Might be too
you
late.
know?
I was real quick a scenario about the wait until something happens. Until now, something did happen at the hospital in Munster Community Hospital, where
Yes.
I had one of my kids there as a patient, and then a loved one that no one knew went in to go visit. The security who was there didn't check him in, didn't ask him any questions. He just went up the floor, went to go see my child. Luckily, it's someone that we all knew in the family, right? But when he left, he said, no one asked me who I was. No one stopped me. That is not right. This could have been someone that was after you to try to get your child to get you, right? Or anything. We got a lot of people that are not right in the mind, mental health is prevalent. So I actually, when I went in to the hospital, I asked the security, the guy that checks in, and where are you going, sir, ma'am, whatever. I said, I have a question. Someone just came in here, and I have a concern about safety for my. It wasn't my son. It was my mom. Sorry, because for peds, it's a little more different than adults. Um, why didn't you stop the person and ask who he was? Oh, we've never had an accident. We've never had anything happened here. I said, so are you waiting for something to happen in order for you to be proactive? Made him
Right.
think about that, because I said, you're not keeping my family members safe, or anyone else for that matter, if you're not stopping them. I'd rather you stop me. If you think you know me, stop me so you know if it's me who you think it is, and
Right.
I'll thank you, because you're keeping my loved ones safe. Now we know
Absolutely.
that there was an officer there was an altercation with a mentally ill patient, and look what happened. Someone actually died.
Yep.
And
It
anything is possible at anywhere. So we have to keep ourselves safe, but we got to keep our loved ones safe too. And the lack of planning, the not
yes.
being proactive, Dave, is what gets us where we are right now.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But and then companies will tell you, well, it's we're short man, we don't have the time. You don't have the time not to practice. You don't have the time not to prepare. Because these are people's lives at stake. And I understand business, don't get me wrong. But if you invest in your employees, for every $1 you invest in your employees, your return of interest is $4 to $6. So why wouldn't we take the time? Why don't we invest in our employees' safety? Because they're the ones that are actually making your business profitable. They're the ones that are actually coming to work every day, you operating those pieces of equipment and things of that nature. So when you talk about exits, even I've been in a lot of places where you go to an exit door and they're locked. How do you expect people to get out in case of a fire?
Mm-hmm.
Are you properly training your people as new employees on fire safety, on workplace safety, on just general safety? It's amazing to go into businesses and to realize that people aren't spending enough time on the new employee training. And I know I'm getting a little off, but this new employee training is so
Important.
important because it's the first thing that people are thinking about. If you're just rushing me in and rushing me out, having me sign 100 sheets of paper and then putting me on a job and not really going over what's important, the safety plan, the fire plan, the emergency action plans, then what are you telling me as an employee? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. How much do you care? Do you value my life? You may not be valuing yours, but you value your employees.
But you know something? We're not, when you talk about employee safety, you have to go farther than that, because for every employee that gets hurt, what
There's
about
a
their
family.
family
There's
members?
a family hurt. Yeah,
Yes. Who's
exactly.
going to take charge? Who's running those kids to their programs? Who's taking care of the parents? How many family members had to quit their jobs to take care of their loved ones who were hurt at work? I mean, and we don't think about it. We cut them a check or they get something because of a death or whatever the case may be, but then we
Mm.
never ever go back and how is that family really doing? How are those children really doing? It amazes me. I mean, we just don't put enough stock in that. And I know we're getting a little short on time.
We have about 5 minutes left of our show, and this is Real Talk with EVE. And you guys are talking, we're talking about issues, but let's talk about the solutions. Many people talk about the problems all day long. I'm like, okay, if there's a solution, there really isn't a problem, right? So we have a wonderful guest here, my dear friend David Ward. I hadn't seen in a while, that I work with together in the community. We talk about safety, right? And
Yes.
he is an OSHA outreach trainer. He's been doing this for 40 years. If you just chiming in right now, thank you for listening. Please share these shows, because it's not about me or the actual guest. It's about the information we're bringing on here for you to take note, to learn. This is the Wednesday Lunch and Learn show, Real Talk with E.V.E. We have a few minutes left. Dave, what else do we need to know to take notes about safety?
If you care about your family, if you truly love your family, then take the time to make sure that your house is safe, that your family's safe, that when you travel during the wintertime, that you have things in your car that's going to protect you in case of an accident, in case of being stranded. We don't even think about these things. If there's anything that I could ever help with, please just reach out and contact me. You can contact me through Eve's show, and we can go from there.
What is your contact information? Is there a contact information, Dave?
It's D Ward. Yeah, D Ward at sbdcs.com. Or you can call me at 219-669-9043. I'll be able to help you, guide you, and if I don't know the answer, I'll find it for you.
Amen.
I'd like to be your valuable safety resource, if nothing more.
One more time, as D Ward at SBC.
No, SBDCS.
I'm sorry, D Ward at SBCDS.
SBD.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can't even hear it.
Safety by Design Consulting Service. Yes. S is in safety, B as in buy, D as in design, C as in consult, S is in services. We got this.
You know, I knew that before.
Yes, you should. You were a part of that, Eve.
D Ward. One more time at SBDCS.
SBDCS. Safety by Design Consulting Services. Just the initials.
.com.
.com.
And your phone number one more time for our beautiful viewers here. They're taking notes, they're learning, and they're thinking. Put that
219.
Yes.
669 9043.
9043. So are you consulting that people can actually call you and hire you if it's their business, or just get
I can give them information and contacts for consultants in their areas. Yes.
Okay. Well, that is wonderful, Dave. One last thing, we just have a couple minutes left, and I want to thank you once again for carving out some time and coming on to this show, because we really need to teach in the community and also be part of the solution. You know, there's that favorite phrase, be the change you want to see, right?
Absolutely.
Valerie, she's watching, is SBDCS. And you know what? I apologize. Actually, I had it on my banner, and we're going to ask David to repeat it one more time.
S is in safety.
Now, here it is. Right there. It's
yes,
right there.
SBDCS.com.
It's right there. D Ward at SBDCS.com. And there is his phone number, 219-669-9043. Reach out if you want to know more about safety. Are you keeping your family safe enough, or yourself? Are you keeping your staff, your employees, your own family that works with you safe enough? Don't wait until tragedy comes to fruition. You don't want that to happen. Right. Be safe, be prepared, and make sure that when you're in a car, real quick, you got 1 minute, real quick, in a car, how do we prepare ourselves?
You want to make sure that you have a seatbelt cutter for sure. You can get those at Walmart or Ace Hardware or other stores of that nature. You want to have an emergency kit. You want to have some blankets. You want to have some food that's non-perishable. Definitely want to have some water. And you want to make sure that you put that in your car and keep it there. You also want to make sure you have a little shovel and some salt, especially during the winter time. And you get some hand warmers and feet warmers at Ace Hardware. Put them in your shoes, put them in your glove box. In case you're stranded, at least you have something to keep you warm. Quick.
And batteries. Have batteries.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
All sizes.
You want to make sure you have those wind-up emergency lights. All you have to do is wind it up and the lights will flicker, and there's different flickers on it, 1, 2, and 3. I think you could get those also at Walmart or Ace Hardware or even maybe at Menards.
Wow. We're going to have to bring you back again in a couple of weeks because we got so many safety tips that we need to teach our audience, Dave. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you. And so that's that, guys. This is Real Talk with E.V.E. on Lunch and Learn Wednesdays. And I hope that you've learned while you're having your lunch. And thank you for joining us here today. Dave, thank you once again. We'll talk right after. So you take care and we'll talk soon. Thank you. All right, guys, I hope that you've really enjoyed today's show, and it was a lot to learn today. I'd like to make this show a little longer, but because it's lunchtime, we want to make sure we respect your time as well, and that we are doing what we need to do. And so to briefly bring in you some good things and that you're going to learn from. And most of all, it's all about you in Real Talk with E.V.E. And so thank you once again for joining here. Till next time, the next show is Saturday, coming up at 12:30. We have an awesome guest dealing with human trafficking. So you don't want to miss that show this Saturday at 12:30. Until next time, guys, thank you. Love you. Thank you so much for joining me here on Real Talk with E.V.E. Nos vemos.